family. That's what we did. So gold rose after it again. The government is not speculators, or are not speculators. It is not our job to be speculating about the future movements of the gold price. But I think you can safely judge that our handling of Britain's gold reserves in financial difficulties compared to the Tories in 1993 is a great deal better.
First to the Labour side. You were saying that they underpaid the transport and they underpaid everything. Don't you think, if you look at the government debt since Thatcher to now, it's risen to around 800 billion, like near 900 billion. Don't you think that there's a limit when they should just stop spending and start paying back some money instead of still paying money on the NHS and paying money on the transport? That's the question.
All I would say is that, unlike the entire period of the Tory government from 1989 to 1997, where they never once had a budget surplus, we had a budget surplus from 1999 to 2000. I would also say that in actual fact, this spending was necessary. If you take government spending as a percentage of GDP now is about 42%. Exactly the same when Margaret Thatcher left office. It's exactly the same percent of GDP as when Thatcher left office. But I think we'll agree, in fact, that the country is in a rather better state. So I'm sure Thatcher would be perfectly happy with the level of spending now, since she was then.
Question with the proposition. No question?
Seb's got one.
Yeah, for the proposition.
Seb, money.
No.
You said about the Labour failing education policy, but the latest figures show that the number of NEETs, which is not an education, apprenticeship or training, are the lowest ever, so how can you say they failed?
Okay, well, it all depends on whether the people who are NEETs are doing anything worthwhile. We find very often Labour has done things such as expand university places and perhaps provide...
Well, NEETs finish at 18.
Yeah, and provide university places that are actually probably not beneficial to the people who go on them, and they've done that at the expense of introducing student loans. And in terms of NEETs, okay, if there's been, I don't know, as I said, I haven't researched this at all, but there's been a slight drop in the number of people not in education, employment or training. That's perfectly, I accept that. If there's been a slight rise in the number of people getting 5 A stars to C at GCSE, I accept that. But really, fundamentally, have we solved the problem? Really, fundamentally, is everybody leaving school having had the best possible education to make the most of their talents in the state sector, which was what was promised, after all. You know, education was the priority. It was the thing that Tony Blair was going to do. Can we really honestly say that they've done that? No, of course they haven't. Of course they haven't.
No more questions? None whatsoever? For the proposition. For the proposition.
I would like you to explain to me how you're going to convince me that you're going to represent every person in our community in the United Kingdom. Given that in Scotland there are no Conservative MPs, we do not want your party up there, you have not in the past and do not now listen to our needs.
Well, there are no Conservative MPs, but there are Conservative members of the Scottish Parliament. If we don't listen to your needs and you don't like us, that's perfectly fine. Leave. Stop taking our money. If I were the Conservative government, it would be a significantly more radical party than it is now. But I suspect that once the Scottish people, the Tory-hating, British-hating, English-hating Scottish people are faced with the choice between staying part of the Union and becoming significantly poorer because they rely on us, then I suspect that suddenly Scotland will all become unionist again. But as I say, put it to the vote. Let them decide.
And a response!
Scottish oil and from the industry up in Scotland is actually supported from the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Where's all this money coming from? A lot of it's actually been funded by Scotland.
Scottish Oil has for a long time been a private concern, and if the taxpayer money goes to the British government, that's fine. I'm glad you agree. You know, you have benefited us, we benefited you. The union works. I'm glad you agree. But the fact remains that the union is supported by the Conservative Party. I personally think that that's a good thing because we get to help the less well-off, less developed Scotland. It's kind of like the overseas budget, but you know.
Watch it.
But that's perfectly fine. If people don't like that, they can leave. But I personally, and the Conservative Party supports unionism. You get all kinds of good things from it. Scottish teachers coming down here and teaching. Being is one of the many benefits. But, just to finish, the Conservative Party supports the union, I support the union. I suspect that faced with the choice of not being part of the union, most Scots, when it comes down to it, will support the union.
But they would support the Conservative Party.
We are seriously pressed for time, so if we can have the opposition summary, please.
Oh, it's Chris.
Okay, well, I think we've quite clearly shown today, ladies and gentlemen, that while the proposition have been going on saying, oh yes, economy, the war, everything, all those common prejudices, we have actually quite clearly shown that most of these have very little basis in fact. Over the last 10 years, the Labour government has in fact done many benefits to this country. The economy was brilliant, okay, it's not so great now, but then again, we're not like Iceland. We haven't had the entire government resign because they had no money. I think we've shown that, in fact, most of this has in fact been America's fault, not our own, at the risk of playing on people's prejudices. I wouldn't do that, of course. And results in schools are actually improving. They're not actually getting worse. The media is always going on, oh yes, the results are improving, they must be getting easier. Maybe we're just doing better. No? The simple fact of the matter is, the Labour government has not been a total failure, and so vote us.
I give way to the people like Frank. As far as the economy is concerned, I admit the problem came from America, but this is a government who took away the ability for the Bank of England to regulate the banks and gave it to the tick-box bureaucrats of the FSA and Canary Wharf. It continued to nationalise swathes of the economy, fueling the unproductive parts of the economy. This is a government that has one of the highest debts in peacetime. It's a government that has failed on all levels. The NHS budget has gone up 140% in the last 10 years, but MRSA has gone up by 348%. Even you can't agree with those figures, can you?
All those agreeing with the motion, hands up please.
That's us. That's the majority.
All those who disagree.
Me.
Not sure. The opposition.